Hi, I'm Andy Ramirez for the Liberty News Network. Recently, the Department of Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency released their apprehensions and deportations numbers for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2010. Let's go over some of these numbers. The total number is 392,000, about half of whom is claimed to be convicted criminals. Officials with ICE said removals during the fiscal year that ended September 30 included more than 1,000 murderers, nearly 6,000 sex offenders, 45,000 drug offenders, and 28,000 drunk drivers. This number fell short of what they expected to be 400,000 for the year. In fact, it surpassed their previous record of 389,834, this according to a report by the Associated Press. One of the things in the course of my investigations a few years ago that I discovered was that apprehensions numbers that were turned in by the Border Patrol didn't always show up on Border Patrol's official stat sheets. And this is something that I heard personally from top officials. For instance, the term OTM, other than Mexican, came up involving special interest aliens. Now, these are illegal aliens, possibly terrorists. We really don't know, but they come from nations that are noted for sponsoring or supporting these types of organizations. Now, a number of individuals who had been processed and turned in by the Border Patrol did not turn up on their stat sheets a few years back. And I can't really get into who or where because I don't want to burn my sources, so please do bear with me. But you can rest assured that I heard this from top people and people who are clearly in the know. But let's get back to some of the details in this report. You know, Janet Napolitano states, and I must quote, "It has been another record-breaking year at ICE, one that has seen ICE enforce the law at record levels and in sensible, firm, and thoughtful ways." Well, that sounds like nothing more than a whole lot of patting themselves on the back, especially by her. Officials said that 180 owners, employers, or managers had been criminally charged and that 50 million had been levied in fines. 180? Out of how many incidents? Out of how many occurrences? You know, this is another thing that must be questioned. Just 180 and you're bragging about it, Janet? Come on. Napolitano credited programs known as 287G and Secure Communities, both of which are claimed to leverage the reach of local law enforcement officials for the stepped-up deportations. Of course, you got to remember that this is the same administration who didn't want interior enforcement raids or sweeps. Of course, they're following the footsteps of their predecessors, George W. Bush and his administration. Napolitano says that crime along the border was either stable or falling, and that some of America's safest cities are right along the southwest border. Are you kidding me? You have a border war down there, you have a drug war down there, and it has spilled. And the southwest border, when you talk to the average Border Patrol agent or law enforcement officer who's not afraid to talk, or who hasn't bought in, you know, go along to get along, or the border resident, they're going to tell you it is as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than it has ever been. But I must continue. Now, when we talk about secure communities, well, the ICE agents, their union, National Council 118 of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they issued a vote of no confidence press release earlier this year, and they addressed some of those things that Secretary Napolitano and ICE was addressing in this recent statements, one of whom is this Secure Communities program. Let me read this for your benefit. ICE is misleading the American public with regard to the effectiveness of criminal enforcement programs like the ICE Secure Communities program, using it as a selling point to move forward with amnesty-related legislation. As officers in the field, we know this program will not improve enforcement or provide for public safety because ICE refuses, for political reasons, to request the additional manpower and resources needed to adequately operate the program. And in some parts of the country, it's even worse. It's a joke. While ICE reports internally that more than 90% of ICE detainees are first encountered by ICE in jails after they are arrested by local police for criminal charges. ICE senior leadership misrepresents this information publicly in order to portray ICE detainees as being non-criminal in nature to support the administration's position on amnesty and relaxed security at ICE detention facilities. And as I do understand this, this also extends to the flights where the illegal aliens are being returned, criminal aliens or not, back to native countries, and all at U.S. taxpayer expense. Now, it's pretty clear what's going on here. What has happened at ICE is despicable, but it's not the fault of the ICE agents. It's the fault of people and the responsibility of people like Janet Napolitano, John Morton, and their predecessors. It's the same game that's been played going back to the Bush administration. Now, it's funny because Janet then talks about, and I quote, "We know that at the end of the day, to fully address all our nation's immigration challenges, Congress must make changes to the underlying laws themselves. A path to citizenship should be found for many of the country's estimated 11 million unauthorized immigrants." 11 million, even Mexico says it's 20 to 30 million. "But they must get right with the law by paying fines, committing to learn English, and submitting to criminal background checks." How do you run a criminal background check on a person that doesn't exist, that gives you phony information? Are you kidding me? See, you really can't make this stuff up, and she knows this as a former U.S. attorney herself. You know, it's simple. If a person enters my home by means other than the front door and by knocking or ringing the doorbell first, they're not going to get allowed entry and they're going to be arrested for trespassing. Why should that be any different to enter our nation? Bottom line is, it's about American security, and if we fail, can we afford another 9/11? For the Liberty News Network, I'm Andy Ramirez.